Have you ever looked around at your life, your job, your relationships, your responsibilities, and felt a strange sinking sensation that you're just faking it? You see a grown man in the mirror, you pay bills, you might even have a family. But deep down, in the quiet moments, when the noise of the day fades out, you don't feel like a man. Not really. You feel like a boy pretending to be a man, putting on a costume that doesn't quite fit. Maybe it shows up as a sudden, flashbang anger that you can't control, like a toddler throwing a tantrum, but with adult consequences. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you feel numb, disconnected, like you're drifting through life without a rudder, waiting for someone else to tell you what to do or where to go.
Why is this so common? Why do so many modern men feel this profound sense of aimlessness? Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette, the authors of King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, argue that we are living in a time where the connection to deep, mature masculinity has been severed. They famously wrote that the corporate yes man, the emotionally distant father, and even the abusive husband are not expressions of masculine power. They are expressions of boy psychology.
It's a phenomenon that psychologists call the pour eternus, the eternal boy. It's that feeling of endless potential, but zero commitment. The feeling of wanting to fly high like Peter Pan, but never actually landing or building anything real. It's the desire to remain a child, because the weight of the crown, the weight of true adulthood, feels too heavy to bear. But it doesn't have to be this way. You aren't broken, you just haven't been initiated. Moore and Gillette suggest that there is a blueprint, a psychological map, hidden in the myths and stories of our ancestors that can guide us out of this boy state and into mature manhood. In the next segment, we're going to open up that map and look at the fundamental difference between boy psychology and man psychology, and why so many of us get stuck in the former.
Welcome to The Last Read, Books for Your Ears, Wisdom for Your Life. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you do not want to miss the rest of this journey. Today, we are opening the pages of what is essentially the missing manual for the male psyche, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It is a text that serves as a sort of psychological GPS. We all know that physical maturity happens automatically. Nature takes care of that. But psychological maturity? That does not happen by accident.
In the chapters ahead, we are going to uncover 4 secret energies, ancient archetypes, that reside within the subconscious of every man. They are the structural foundations of your personality. But here is the catch, and it is a dangerous one. If these energies aren't acknowledged and mastered, they twist. They become what the authors call shadows. Dangerous, hidden forces that can quietly wreck a career, poison a marriage, and leave a man feeling utterly fragmented without ever knowing why.
If you want to own this blueprint for yourself, I have dropped a link to the book right in the description below. But before we can understand the map, we have to understand the cartographers. Coming up next, we are going to look at the 2 men, a psychoanalyst and a mythologist, who combined forces to rediscover this ancient wisdom. And we will discuss exactly why they believe the modern world is suffering from a catastrophic lack of initiation.
So, let's look at the architects of this framework. To understand the map, you have to know who drew it. And in this case, it was a unique collaboration between 2 very different minds. On one side, you had Robert L. Moore, a distinguished Jungian psychoanalyst and a professor of psychology and religion in Chicago. On the other, you had Douglas Gillette, a mythologist and spiritual counselor. It was a meeting of 2 worlds, the clinical and the mythical. Moore spent years sitting in therapy sessions, listening to men who were successful on paper, CEOs, fathers, husbands, but who felt hollow inside, fragmented. Gillette, meanwhile, looked at history, at the Greeks, the indigenous tribes, the medieval courts, looking for the universal patterns that defined manhood across the ages.
When they combined their research, They realized something profound, and frankly, something a bit terrifying about our modern condition. They argued that the contemporary Western world is suffering from a catastrophic loss, the loss of ritual initiation. Throughout 95% of human history, in almost every traditional culture, there was a specific, usually painful moment where a boy was separated from the women and the comforts of home and forced to undergo a rite of passage. The elders would take him into the wilderness, put him through trials, and essentially the boy would metaphorically die so the man could be born. But here, in our modern society, we have largely dismantled those rituals. We have pseudo-initiations, of course, getting your driver's license at 16, turning 21 and buying your first legal drink, maybe graduating college. But none of these require a fundamental shift in consciousness. None of them involve the elders teaching you the secrets of the tribe.
Moore famously called this the crisis of mature masculinity. He noted that what we often see in the news, the violence, the posturing, the domination, isn't actually an expression of too much masculinity. He argued it is actually the expression of immature masculinity, of men who possess the physical power of an adult, but who never received the software upgrade to handle it. They realized that without these rites of passage, the male psyche gets stuck. It defaults to a lower setting. And that brings us to the absolute core thesis of the book, the fundamental difference between what Moore and Gillette call boy psychology and man psychology. It sounds like a simple distinction, but as we are about to see, most men today are walking around with the operating system of a teenager running on the hardware of a 40-year-old, and the results can be devastating.
To emphasize just how critical this transition is, Moore and Gillette argue that the root of boy psychology isn't malice, it's center of the universe thinking. Think about a toddler. When a toddler is hungry or tired or wants a toy, that need is the only thing that exists in the entire cosmos. And that's healthy for a toddler. They have to be self-centered to survive. The problem, according to the authors, is when that software keeps running 20 or 30 years past its expiration date. In the old days, initiation rituals were designed to essentially kill that part of the ego. The elders would take the boy away from the comfort of the mother, put him through an ordeal, often terrifying and painful, and bring him back as a man. The message was clear. You are no longer the center of the world. You are now a servant of the tribe. You have duties.
But we've lost that. So today, you might see a guy in his mid-30s. Let's call him Dave. Dave has a good job, maybe a family. But at work, if his boss gives him critical feedback, Dave doesn't just listen and adjust. He spirals. He feels personally attacked. Maybe he sulks for days, or he lashes out and blames his team. He needs constant validation to feel okay. That is boy psychology. It's the high chair tyrant, one of the shadow forms of the boy. It's the demand to be served, to be admired, without the capacity to provide stability for others. Moore and Gillette are very careful to say that the boy isn't bad. The boy is the source of our enthusiasm, our wonder, our playfulness. We need him. But he cannot be the one driving the car. He has to take a back seat to the man.
Because man psychology, by contrast, is generative. It's not about what can I get, it's about what can I build, who can I bless. A man operating in his mature psychology doesn't crumble when things get hard, because his identity isn't built on being praised. It's built on his values. He stands firm not for his own glory, but for the good of those around him. It's a shift from being a consumer of energy to a provider of energy. And this shift doesn't happen by accident. It requires a conscious effort to access specific reservoirs of energy within the human psyche. Moore and Gillette identified 4 distinct channels, or archetypes, that a man must bring online to fully mature. The first of these, and in many ways the most central, is the energy that brings order to chaos. It is the archetype of the king.
The first of these, and in many ways the most central, is the energy that brings order to chaos. It is the archetype of the king. Now, when we say king, don't just think of a guy in a crown sitting on a velvet chair. In the psychological sense, the king is the primal energy. It is the central organizing principle of the human psyche. Moore and Gillette describe the king as having two main functions: order and blessing. Let's start with order. The king represents the part of a man that provides stability. You know that feeling when a crisis hits, maybe at work or a family emergency, and everyone is running around like headless chickens? Panic is setting in, people are shouting, and then one person walks into the room. He doesn't scream, he doesn't run, he just stands there, completely centered. He looks around, assesses the situation, and says, "Okay, here is what we are going to do." And immediately, everyone relaxes. The anxiety in the room drops. That is the king energy. He isn't the one fixing the leak with a wrench, that might be the warrior or the magician, but he is the one holding the space so the work can be done. His very presence establishes a realm where things make sense.
But if he only provided order, he might be cold or distant. That's why the second function is so critical: blessing. This is the generative aspect we talked about earlier. A man accessing the king energy delights in seeing others flourish. He isn't threatened by the young up-and-comer in the office, he mentors him. He doesn't envy his son's strength, he praises it. Moore and Gillette make a really profound point here. They say that young men are starving for the blessing of older men. They need to be seen, valued, and told, "You are good, you have what it takes." The king provides that affirmation. He mirrors your worth back to you. However, like all archetypes, the king has a shadow side. When a man fails to integrate this energy correctly, it splits into two dysfunctional forms. The first is the active shadow, the tyrant. We've all met the tyrant. This is the abusive boss who screams at his employees because he's terrified of losing control. The tyrant doesn't bless others, he exploits them. He sees other people's talent as a threat to his own throne. He creates order, sure, but it's a suffocating, rigid order. It's my way or the highway.
Then there is the passive shadow, the weakling. The weakling is the man who abdicates his throne. This is the father who, when his children need guidance or discipline, says, "Go ask your mother." He refuses to take responsibility. He might be paranoid, constantly suspecting people are out to get him, but he lacks the spine to actually make a decision and stand by it. A man fluctuating between the tyrant and the weakling is dangerous. He's explosive one minute and hiding the next. But the mature king, the good king, stays centered. He holds the tension. He provides the vision for the realm and the safety for his people to thrive. But here is the catch. A king can have the best vision in the world. He can be wise and benevolent. But if he cannot act, if he cannot defend his borders or enforce his will when necessary, his kingdom will fall. He needs an enforcer. He needs an energy that is capable of aggression, not for the sake of violence, but for the sake of protection. He needs the warrior.
So, let's talk about the warrior. When we hear that word, most of us immediately picture a soldier on a battlefield, or maybe a samurai with a sword. And while those are accurate images, in the psychological sense, the warrior is much more than just a man with a weapon. It is the archetype of decisive action. If the king is the vision of the realm, the warrior is the engine that gets things done. It is the energy of self-discipline. It's that aggressive force, and I mean aggressive in a positive way, that gets a man out of bed at 4:30 a.m. to train, or to work on his side business while the rest of the world is sleeping. It is the ability to endure pain to achieve a goal. Moore and Gillette make a very important distinction here. They talk about clean aggression. This isn't about violence, it's about boundaries. Think about a corporate setting. The warrior isn't the guy flip-flopping tables. The warrior is the man who sees a colleague being belittled in a meeting
and calmly, firmly steps in. He draws a line in the sand. He says, that is not acceptable. He is a protector. He is alert. He is awake. And he is not afraid of conflict if it serves a higher purpose.
But, like all high-octane fuels, this energy is volatile. If it isn't handled correctly, it burns the house down. We see this in the active shadow of the warrior, the sadist. This is the man who has detached himself from his own human feelings. In the modern world, we often call this the workaholic. This is the manager who grinds his team into the dust, who sees vulnerability as a weakness to be exploited. He pushes himself to the point of burnout and demands everyone else do the same. He isn't working hard for a noble cause. He's working hard because he doesn't know how to stop, and he enjoys the power trip of controlling others. Cruelty becomes his standard operating procedure. On the flip side, we have the passive shadow, the masochist. This is the doormat. This is the man who cannot defend his own boundaries. He is the pushover who says yes to everything because he is terrified of conflict. He projects his warrior energy onto other people, waiting for someone else to save him. He might complain about his situation constantly, acting the martyr, but he lacks the decisiveness to actually quit the job or end the toxic relationship. He takes the abuse because he doesn't believe he has the power to stop it.
A man needs to integrate the true warrior to avoid these traps. But here is the critical key that Moore and Gillette emphasize. The warrior must serve the king. Without the king's benevolence and vision, the warrior is just a mercenary. He's just a gun for hire. He needs a transpersonal goal, a mission bigger than his own ego, to keep his sword clean. So you have the king to guide you and the warrior to take action. But action without knowledge is dangerous. You can be the most disciplined, aggressive worker in the world, but if you don't understand how the system works, you're just banging your head against a wall. To be effective, a man needs to understand the hidden laws of the universe. He needs to know the technical details. He needs to move from being a gruntsman to being a master of technology and wisdom. He needs the magician.
So, you enter the domain of the magician. Now, when Moore and Gillette talk about the magician, they aren't talking about card tricks or rabbits in hats. They're talking about the archetype of consciousness, of awareness. This is the knower. If the warrior is about action, the magician is about insight. Think about a master surgeon. When he steps into the operating room, he knows exactly where to cut. He understands the complex, hidden systems of the human body that the patient doesn't understand. Or think of a senior computer programmer, the kind of guy who looks at a screen of chaotic code and sees a matrix, a structure. He can fix a bug in 10 seconds that would take a novice 10 days to find. That is the magician energy. It turns chaos into order through knowledge. In ancient times, this was the shaman or the ritual elder. Today, it's the scientist, the technician, the lawyer who knows the loopholes in the contract. The magician is the master of technology. He regulates the energy because he understands how the machine works.
But, as with all the archetypes, there is a dangerous side when this energy isn't balanced by the king. First, you have the active shadow, the manipulator. This is the man who knows, but he won't tell you. He withholds information to maintain power. You see this in office politics all the time. The guy who deliberately leaves you off the email chain so you'll look unprepared in the meeting. Or the mechanic who charges you double because he knows you have no idea what a catalytic converter actually does. The manipulator uses his knowledge as a weapon to make himself feel superior and to keep you dependent on him. He is detached, cynical, and cold. Then there is the passive shadow, the innocent one. Don't let the name fool you. This isn't about being pure. It's about avoiding responsibility. This is the man who behaves like a dummy on purpose. He messes up a task or forgets a critical detail and then throws his hands up and says, "Gee, I didn't know. I was just trying to help."
It's passive-aggressive sabotage. He wants the status of the magician. He wants to be part of the inner circle,
but he refuses to carry the burden of the consequences. It's a way of blocking the king's will by feigning ignorance. So, a man needs the magician. He needs to master his craft. He needs to know the secret knowledge of his profession or his passion. But here is the problem. A man can be a brilliant surgeon, a genius coder, or a master strategist, and still be absolutely miserable. He can be so detached, so stuck in his head analyzing the data, that he forgets to actually live. The magician is cold. He is logical. To be a complete man, you need more than just a sharp mind. You need a heart. You need the fuel that makes the whole engine worth running. You need the connection to beauty, to art, and to other human beings. You need the lover.
You need the lover. Now, when we hear that word, lover, our minds usually jump straight to romance or sex. And while that is certainly part of it, Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette mean something much broader here. They call this the erotic connection to the world. But don't get hung up on the word erotic. They are talking about aliveness. They are talking about the primal energy of passion, of vividness, and of embodiment. This is the part of a man that doesn't just eat, he tastes. He doesn't just hear noise, he feels the music. Think of a man who can walk into a room and instinctively read the mood, who can appreciate the texture of a well-tailored suit, the complexity of a fine bourbon, or the specific shade of orange in a sunset. That is the lover energy. It is the artist, the connoisseur, and the empath. Without the lover, the king is just a bureaucrat, the warrior is just a mercenary, and the magician is just a computer. The lover is what connects them to humanity. It is the enemy of boundaries because it wants to merge with everything. It wants to feel at one with the world.
But because this energy is so potent, so raw, the shadows here can be devastating. First, we have the active shadow, the addicted lover. This is the man who is eternally restless. He is possessed by his desires. He is the Don Juan, the man who is always chasing the next conquest, the next high, or the next big adventure. He falls in love with the feeling of falling in love. But the moment the excitement fades and reality sets in, he's gone. He has no boundaries. He is lost in a sea of sensory experience, whether that's a new relationship, gambling, or substance abuse. He is a man who is consuming life, but never truly digesting it. He is looking for something to fill a bottomless void. And then, on the flip side, we have the passive shadow, the impotent lover. This doesn't necessarily mean sexual impotence, though it can. It refers to a psychological impotence. This is the man whose world has turned gray. He is flat, depressed, and cut off from his own life force.
You see this in the man who has worked the same soul-crushing job for 20 years, not because of duty, but because he has forgotten how to dream. He feels nothing. No joy, no sorrow, just a dull, persistent numbness. He is a man who has forgotten that he has a heart at all. So, we have laid them all out. We have the king, who provides order and blessing, the warrior, who provides action and discipline, the magician, who provides wisdom and technology, and the lover, who provides passion and connection. But here is the catch, and it is a big one. You cannot just pick one. You are not an RPG character where you select a class and ignore the rest. You are a man, and you have to be all of them. But if the warrior tries to rule the kingdom, you get violence. If the lover tries to make the decisions, you get chaos. So, how do you get these four very different voices to sit down at the same table and work together? How do you actually use this map to stop sabotaging your own life?
The answer lies in the center, with the king. You see, in a healthy psyche, the king is the chairman of the board. He is the central organizing principle. He does not do everything himself, but he holds the vision. Think of it like a well-run government or a functioning business. The king sets the policy, the what and the why.
Then he turns to the warrior to handle the how. The warrior enforces the boundaries and gets the work done. The magician provides the data, the strategy, the insight needed to make those decisions. And the lover reminds the king what they are fighting for, ensuring the people are fed, that there is music in the halls, that the kingdom is actually worth saving. But when the king is absent, or when the ego tries to usurp the throne, that is when things fall apart. If the warrior tries to rule, you get a military dictatorship. Everything becomes a fight, every conversation a battle to be won. If the magician tries to rule, you get a detached technocracy, cold manipulation, logic without heart, keeping secrets just to feel superior. And if the lover rules alone, the kingdom goes bankrupt. You get a leader who just wants everyone to feel good, avoiding conflict until the walls cave in.
So, accessing these energies isn't about conjuring magic. It is about awareness. It is about monitoring your own behavior and recognizing which shadow has currently hijacked the driver's seat. Moore and Gillette suggest a practice that modern psychology often calls name it to tame it. It works like this. You are in a heated argument with your spouse. You feel that rising heat, that desire to say something that will truly hurt them just to win the argument. In that split second, you pause. You say to yourself, "This is not the king. This is the shadow warrior. This is the sadist." Just by naming it, you separate yourself from it. You disidentify with the possession. You can then take a breath and consciously ask, what would the king do here? How do I bring order and blessing to this chaos instead of more destruction? It is a constant practice. It is the work of a lifetime.
We have covered a vast amount of ground in this series, exploring the geography of the masculine soul. If you want to keep exploring these kinds of insights, I invite you to subscribe to The Last Read. We are dedicated to pulling the wisdom out of the pages and into your life. And if you want to go to the source, please check the link in the description to get your own copy of King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It is a dense read, but it is worth every ounce of effort. I want to leave you with one final thought. For thousands of years, tribes and societies had ritual elders, old men who would take the boys away from the mothers and put them through the fires of initiation, forcing them to let go of their boyish ego and step into mature manhood. We do not have those elders anymore. We live in a world of uninitiated boys pretending to be men, walking around in gray flannel suits or construction vests, acting out their shadows on a global stage. No one is coming to initiate you. No one is coming to tap you on the shoulder and tell you that you are ready. You have to do it yourself. You have to build your own throne, summon your own council, and take responsibility for your own realm. Because if you don't rule your inner world, something else will. Good luck, and thank you for listening.